Alright, howdy guys. Get started here. You're not going to get to see my smiling face tonight. I'm having some technical difficulties with my webcam, but you will get to see hopefully everything that I'm doing. So, some of this stuff I had hoped to have done a little bit ahead of time, but you know how life goes. I had some things going on. Didn't get up here to start working until just about 30 minutes ago because I had to help get the kids down for bed and everything. But here we are, ready to get going with the CNC portion of this. If you saw my note on any of the various channels, the PCBs did not arrive as expected, and partly because I didn't get them out as quickly as I wanted to, and partly because they took a little longer than they normally do. But that's all right. We'll just jump ahead to the CNC portion, and we'll come back to the PCB assembly next week. So, first of all, we're going to be over here in Fusion, and we're going to be setting up some CAM toolpaths. CAM is computer-aided machining, as opposed to CAD, which is computer-aided drawing or computer-aided drafting. So here we're going to be designing the toolpaths that we will then send to the CNC router to cut out this particular object. So what I've put in here is some that I've already got from another project. Kind of cheating just a hair, but you know, bear with me. It's what I've got to work with. So speeds things up a lot. I will walk you through what each of these things does in kind of a brief rundown of what the different toolpaths do. So the first thing we got to do is we got to create a setup, and the setup is going to define what the stock that we're cutting this from looks like, and what the orientation is going to be on the router. So the stock, you see here what I brought in is not correct. So I want the stock, I need to select an X and Y axis. So I'm going to select the X-axis along this edge, and then I'm going to select the Y-axis along that edge, and then I'm going to, okay, then the stock box point is already correct, so that's where I want the origin to be. That's where it's going to be situated on my table for my router. If this orientation isn't correct, sometimes you can see here I had to flip the X-axis. Sometimes it depends on how it maps over. So in this case, I want to specify it's a relative box size. I'm not adding any stock to any of the sides because actually I take that back. Because the stock is a little, yeah, no, I'm not going to add any. This says 28. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go change one of the parameters so that's actually matches what my stock is, because I want to go ahead and make this a little taller. Because I didn't get a chance to plane it down as thin as I wanted to. But I can always take that off the bottom if I don't like how thick it is. So I'm going to real quick jump back over here to the model. And I'm going to figure out which case bottom. Okay, my computer's running really slow today. What I'm trying to do here, I forgot why my system's running so slow, but what I'm trying to do here is get this case bottom and do edit feature. There we go. So now I just want to bump that down an additional 4 millimeters. And that's going to then replay everything in the timeline, rebuild this thing, and now it's going to be, switch back to the cam workspace, go into my setup, double click into edit that, and now it says my stock is 32, which is what I have, so that's good. Okay, so now we're going to edit this first toolpath. This is an adaptive clearing. Adaptive clearing is a high-speed machining, which means that it's able to run at faster speeds than traditional machining would, because of the computer calculates an optimum toolpath to keep the edge engaged the majority of the time. So I'm going to pick this machining boundary, say the tool's going to stay inside the boundary. Heights are fine, and then the tools, the sets I have here, it's going to clear a slot, it's going to have a maximum step down, some parameters. It's going to, down here under feed optimization, it's going to slow down when it gets to the corners. This is something I've noticed on my machine, that if I don't slow it down going into the corners, it's too fast. It doesn't work right. Over here on the ramp type, we're doing a helix ramp, which is going to be a kind of spiral down. So that's all pretty good. And that's going to generate this toolpath. Normally it would be done by now, but my computer is extra slow today. There we go. So what it's doing is it's going to cut that slot down the middle, which is going to be slightly time consuming, but then after that it's just going to run straight up and down in this nice little circle, kind of like an oval pattern, like going around a racetrack. So it's going to go pretty fast along there. Oh, see, I messed something up. Okay, I got to go back. When I defined my setup, I didn't specify a model, and so it's trying to use every piece of my model, so it's not doing it right. So what I need to do is I need this to only be the case, and only this body on the case. So now I'm going to regenerate this toolpath, and now it's going to go, and it's going to be multiple levels, and it's going to not cut out, it's not going to ignore the blockers in the corner, which we did before. And it's probably going to take longer to compute. So I'm doing this all with a 1/4 inch bit at this point. I will go down to a 1/16 inch bit to do all the little holes cut out for the mounts. But what I've found is that the 1/4 inch bit, I've experimented with using a 3/4, but the 3/4 inch bit is not as good a bit. And so if I use it, I actually end up with a longer runtime. So this is going to take 35 minutes to machine. We'll get it going here in a minute, and then we'll leave it running while we do some other things. So the next toolpath is going to be a horizontal clearing, or a horizontal surfacing operation. Again, we're going to run it at a pretty high rate of speed with that 1/4 inch bit. We're going to tell it we want to do everything inside that boundary, and we're going to, it's going to do the heights for us. And all the passes and stuff, I've already defined the parameters for it. I use a program called GWizard. Highly recommend it if you're interested in CNC machining, because it lets you calculate feeds and speeds based on the parameters of your tool, and it is very useful for doing that. It's a lot better than just guessing and trying different things. So what this is going to do, this operation is finding all of the horizontal surfaces, and it's just going to run around in a nice pattern with a slight overlap to make sure that they're all level. That operation on this size of case is going to take 11 minutes. Okay, so the next thing we're doing here is possibly not even necessary on this, but down here there's the pocket for the USB port. So I want to machine just this pocket, make sure we get it all the way carved out, because the other operations may have missed this. And then actually I got one operation I want to bump up, which is the contour. And normally I do this kind of out of order. I like to do this one before I do the horizontal. So what this is going to do, this is going to take everything with a slope from 30 degrees to 90 degrees. So well, I only have 90-degree angles in this one. So I want only the vertical surfaces. I don't want the horizontal surfaces. It's going to ignore those. Now we're going to redefine the bottom reference, be that, and then again all these parameters I've defined. This time it's going to do a profile, which means it's going to go, I have a river to tell you, it's going to go down along the edge of the where, along the cutting edge, so it's going to ramp down rather than going in a spiral like the other one did. Okay, so the reason I did this one first is because it clears out the corners, and it knows enough to do a better job of getting into the corners than the horizontal operation does. And so then, subsequently, the horizontal operation doesn't slam into the corners. So it kind of benefits that. And then lastly, this pocket operation. I'm going to zoom in here and see if we're actually getting this pocket cleared out. Or I think what this means is that it's already been done. See, the contour actually went in there and did that pocket, and the adaptive clear, you really can't tell, but I think it did as well. The horizontal even got down into that pocket, so I don't think we need this pocket operation. Get rid of that. Okay, so I'll go ahead and kick this off. So we got all three of these, and what I'm going to do is put them all together into one job that I'm going to send to the CNC. So we're going to go to post-process to do that, and I'm going to tell it, so it picked up case from somewhere. I'm going to tell it I usually number these, so I'm going to do 01. I come up with different things, but this is going to be the main clearing operation, so call it clear and horizontal. It's going to be most of the work. Sometimes I'll name it based on which bit I'm going to use. It just kind of depends on. I'm usually pretty consistent, but it kind of depends on what I decide that day. So we're going to come in here, we're going to put it in this directory, and I'm going to drop it in there. Now it's going to open in an editor, and I'm going to make one modification, which I can't seem to get the toolpath to do. This operation I have highlighted here tells it which tool it's going to use, and the M6, I'd have to look up what that does, but it's going to tell it to do something. And the CNC machine that I'm using does not like that command, and if I leave that command in there, it causes problems. So I'll just take it out. So this, while we're here, is the G code. So G code because a lot of the parameters start with, a lot of the commands start with G. This is kind of doing some initial setup of the parameters we're going to use, and then it starts down here with a G0 and tells it to move to a particular XY location, move to a particular Z location, and then down it goes until it runs through all the XYZ operations and completes the job. So I'm actually switching over to a different machine in order to send this to my CNC. But I'm going to pull up the same program here so you basically see what it would be doing. It's called Universal G-Code Sender is the name of the program that I use. You can use a variety of programs, and that's going to depend on which CNC you have, of course. Okay, so yeah, I didn't find any serial ports. Okay, so normally we would open up a serial port. We would load up the file, which I can go ahead and do. So we're going to load up the file we just created, and open. So now you can see how many rows are in the file. You can use these tools to, you can't really see, but you can use the tools to set the home, to define where the work coordinate system is, and jog the machine around. And you have some macros over here that I'll use to set the Z probe. I'll jump to a Z probe location. I'll run the Z probe command, and then I'll set the Z based on how thick my touch plate is, which you'll see a little bit of hopefully here in a minute. And then I can come over here and I can click Visualize, and I can see a visual representation of my toolpath. Again, this looks pretty similar to what I did in Fusion, but it's all put together. I just like to see that the 0 down here is at the table, and then it's going to come up to the top. If I was visualizing this on my actual CNC, this yellow line, which represents the spindle, would be up above all of these other lines because I wouldn't have it down at 0 on the table. But right now it thinks that the machine is at 0 in its work coordinates, so that's where it thinks it's at. So I'm looking at this right now, and it thinks it's at 0, 0. And the way that it's showing it, I'm wondering if I got my orientation wrong. So I'm going to double check my orientation, because that's the worst thing, is if I put the material in there sideways. Y goes that way, X goes that way, that's correct. Maybe I'm looking at this wrong here. I'm going to pull it up and visualize it once I get it into my other machine. You won't be able to see that, but hopefully I'll get it figured out. Okay, so I'm going to switch over, and you're going to see a little bit of what I do on this webcam that I have set up. So there we are. Get this adjusted here. This is going to be looking down at the router table surface. This is going to be the area where I do the Z probe, and then I'm going to adjust it to do the area where I have the actual machining operation. So I'm going to move this real quick and show you kind of over there. I've already got my wood clamped in. There's spindles back there in that back corner. So it's going to home up to this front corner. I'm going to do a Z probe operation right there, so I'm going to come in here and do that. So I'm stepping over here to this other machine. You won't see much going on until I get start setting this up. So right now what I'm doing is I'm setting up a few parameters. This machine does get shared with some other users, and somebody has used it with another program that likes to reset some of my settings, so I have them saved in another file. Of course, you can't see any of this, but what I'm doing is I'm just double checking that my parameters, the configuration parameters of the CNC machine itself are set up correctly. The main one is that I need to re-enable homing switches. Okay, looks like it's good. You should see it coming into view. So it's running, it's got limit switches on corners, and you'll see it, it finds the corner and then backs off. Still whatever the limit switches are. And then we went to the Z-probe location using my macro that I showed you a minute ago, which is just ever so slightly over there. So then I'll try to show this to you in the camera as I do it. I've got this nice little Z-probe tool that I rigged up, which is just a little piece of aluminum that's pretty flat, and I measured the thickness as precisely as I could. So this gets plugged in over here, and then I'm going to take this alligator clamp and I'm going to clip it to the bit, which I actually have to change. So I'm using, again, this 1/4 inch solid carbide taking off what was on there previously, which is a 60-degree decarbon bit. We can make a sign on here. Make that down tight. Because I put so much torque on it to crank it down tight, like you saw, I'm going to rerun the homing operation. Make sure that nothing's slipped, so it knows where it's at in 3D space. Go back to my Z-probe location. And now I'm going to position the touch plate underneath this area, and then clamp this onto the bit. And I'm going to run my micro, fire out the Z-probe, which is just going to move down very slowly until it makes contact. And then I forgot one thing, which is that it isn't so because of the way I have my macro set up for the Z-probe, it thinks that the table is 0 and that the router moves up to about 45 or 50 millimeters. Right now, it has the Z set to minus 6.59 at the very top. And I want that to be set to set to about 45. So I'm just going to real quick, I'm going to flip over with this camera. I'm going to show you what I'm running, even though I'm running on the other machine. Taking this portion of the G code, and I'm changing this to 45, and I'm running that, which sets the Z location. It tells the machine that it's 45 millimeters above. Uh-oh, having problems with audio. Sorry about that. Let me make sure I'm on the right microphone. Okay. Yeah, hopefully that continues to be solid. I'll try to make sure I'm not moving around too much. Okay, so I'm running this command, which it tells the machine that it's 45 millimeters above the work surface. And then when I run the Z-probe command, which is this one right here. It tells it to go down until it's 35 millimeters below where it was, and then stop if it doesn't get the touch point. Then it will stop and throw an error, which is what it did because it didn't have the Z set right in the beginning. It didn't have it close enough. It needs to estimate it. So just go straight down here, touch off. You can see that. Touch the touch plate, and then the next connector, which sets it back to the Z that I want. And move back up, take this clip off, set this aside, and then before I forget, I'm going to add my nice desk boot that's nice and homemade out of wood and leather. Put that up under there, which velcros in place. Forgot to turn the camera back on, so you didn't see any of that nice desk boot. Show it to you again just because it's so interesting. You don't want to miss it. It is a homemade desk boot out of wood and leather. Cut out for the router, vacuum hose, which is this thing right here. Fits in there, this velcros up under the bottom, and it kind of makes a little bit of a seal for the vacuum to collect more of the dust. Now, we're going to jump back to way home. So I'm going to run the map right here. Have an absolute coordinate system. So I'm going to flip it back up so you can see the park area there. And what I've got you can kind of see along the left and right edge, the left and back edge. So right here and along there, there's a fence, and that is a known location that's referenced. I surfaced those edges with the router along here and along there so that I know that's 0, 0, the 0 x-axis and the 0 y-axis. So now I'm going to put these clamps in here to hold the workpiece in place. And the way these work is they're called an eccentric clamp. So it's a circle, but the center is drilled off-center, so that when you turn this, you can see, maybe it gets closer, maybe this one will be easier to see. So it starts here with a big gap, and then as I turn it around, it goes down to almost no gap. So then I'm going to put a shim in here, and then I can tighten this in place. And we're pretty much ready to go. So I'm going to slide this door in front of me. CNC router here. See that? And then probably going to get loud. I'm going to try to do the best I can to keep it from being too loud. But I'm going to turn on the router and the vacuum. The vacuum is probably, because the router's all enclosed inside a box with some polycarbonate sides and such, the vacuum is the loudest part of the video. I know that's a little loud there, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk over to this sim button, which will be right here, which will be sim button. Okay. So something about that is not right. It drove way past where the stock was and tried to run off way somewhere else. So I got to figure out what I did. Oh, I know what I did. Okay. So I forgot to set the home location when I run that. After I rehomed the machine, I forgot to redefine the home location. Stand by. I got to rerun through some of these steps again. Home the machine. Let's see if I can do this camera. Sorry. Give you an idea of what I'm looking at here. Sorry, I'm trying this kind of matches, but I'd like you to have some idea of what I'm seeing instead of just in the blind doing this. So again, this is the same program that I was using for the image stream, and this way to verify these settings. It's telling me that homing is not enabled. Let's put a homing method to this thing. It doesn't like something. When I did that cancel out of the router, it didn't work. These two should be when it switches on. So I'm going to close out. Close the microphone. Close this off. Send it again. So select the port we have. What happens is if I don't keep the USB, if I don't unplug the USB from the computer, then it continues to power the Now it's running this homing operation, which I'll try to let you watch from a different angle here. A little more interesting angle. Okay, now I'm going to tell it. And my macro over here says you go to this absolute G54 home. G54 is the name of the coordinate system. The 54 is 54, 55, machine's going to go back to its home location, and now the step that I forgot was to reset the X and Y axes to 0. And now everything is as it should be. So now I'm going to reflow here. Nice CNC area. Off. Reload the program. Now it's close to the railroad. So, if you are around these things for very long, this is not entirely uncommon. If you've ever been waiting a very long time for something from me, this is my possibility. So I'm just going to check a couple things out here. Okay, I'm going to rerun. I'm going to rerun the hardware operation. Maybe you see from the files interesting. Let me check the Z height. Where does it? And fill it. Where easy height. Accurately sand down too far. The location of that the XY coordinates was correct, but the Z it slammed down too far. The machine didn't like that. Have a look at that. Back to a good state. Looks like this material too. That's another thing that, of course, is very important. So you know how thick the material you're using is. So So there's the calipers here. It's 32.59. Really taller than I thought it was. Much. Here as well. Same 32.5. I'm going to go back over to Fusion and see if there's something in my toolpath that came off. I never turned back on. Back into Fusion 360. So what I'm looking at is this very first plunge operation just went down way too fast. So what I want to look at here are the heights. So top is the stock top, which is 32 millimeters, which is, again, it's 32.5, but that should be fine. Retract is kind of this fast movement, so it's at 37. It's had a 1.5. So it should have plunged down to 1.5 millimeters above the surface, which should have been about 33.5 millimeters, which should have been at least a millimeter above my stock. I think the toolpath is right. I think there was an error code thrown on this router that said that it hit a hard limit, and I've been having some issues with one of those switches kind of erroneously activating. So I think I went ahead and just disabled the switches in the firmware settings for the CNC, and I think that hopefully that will fix the problem. I think the toolpath works fine. Seems to go fine now. Well, you can tell it's a pretty loud operation. I'm not sure how loud that is on your end. If it's really loud, then let me know. Okay, so while that's running, I'm gonna pop over here and I'm going to kind of get as far away from that as I can to reduce the background noise. So I can't get very far because I still got to be connected to that webcam. But go ahead and get a little ways over here. I'm going to walk off this back. I'm going to mute it for a minute. I'll do that. So you can see now it's finished that slot clearing operation, and now it's going down and clearing along the sides of that. It's kind of a lot more efficient right now. While that's running, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do the next toolpaths for the small holes. I don't actually need either of these. These came from another project which needed some very tiny corners cut out. I'm going to shrink this camera down a little bit. You can kind of see it, and then you can also kind of see some of what's going on over here on the fusion side. So I removed some toolpaths that I didn't need. I'm going to bring up these other toolpaths for the boring operations. So what we're going to do here is we're going to cut out all of the little bitty holes. So we're going to pick each of these circular faces, and I'm going to go around, select all these. You won't be able to see all of them because that camera's in the way, but I'll rotate around here in a minute. Try to verify that I got them all. And this is just telling it the pitch. This is basically how much it's going to step down for each revolution. So if I zoom in real closer, you'll be able to see what it's doing. So it's just going down in a spiral motion to drill out that little bitty pocket with a little bit of it. And again, I'm going to post-process this, and we'll create the new file for it. So I'm just checking here how long I expect that other operation to run. It says it's going to take a total of 52 minutes. It's been running for maybe 4 or 5 minutes. Still going to be a little while. So the next thing that we need to do is to route out the pocket for the USB port is going to be in the side of this. So I'm going to flip over and I'm going to create a new setup. And I'm going to put back on mute while I do that, but I'll come in now. Again, we're going to select the X and Y axes to define the orientation. So I had forgotten that I set it at an angle, and I think that's why it kind of messed up on me on the other one. So we'll see what ends up happening. But I'm going to go ahead and create this one relative to the port itself here. So you see here, I'm setting this point to be kind of on this top face of the board, and the reason for that is the way it's going to mount into my CNC to cut that port out. And I'll hopefully have time to show that later. Again, no additional stock because we cut the blank to the sides. So when we put this into the clamp on the other CNC, it's going to be stood upright like this, kind of on the face. And it's going to be, that front face is going to be clamped against the front of the CNC. And we're going to be cutting into it from the top right here. So this is the orientation. This is something that's a little bit different than the previous operations. I need to set the bottom depth to be the bottom of this pocket because that's as far into the cut as the CNC can go. stock to leave is something I just turned off. Stock to leave means how much of the stock are you going to leave to be cut off by later finishing operation. So I'm not going to leave anything. Again, I'm going to use a profile operation here rather than a helix. I think that's going to be better for this. And that's a very quick operation. It's just going to take 2 minutes. So while we're waiting on the CNC to run, I can simulate this and show you what it's going to look like when it actually does the machine. So this is with the helix, so you can see it's making that helix to kind of drill down, and then it goes down to the next layer, and goes to the helix, and then it closes out around that. I'll show you in a second what it would look like with the profile instead of the helix. Okay, I'm going to step back, so looking at this. So what I did here is I've specified that this top surface is going to be parallel to the X and Y axes, and this bottom surface is going to be left open. So what's going to happen is, it's hard to see if I scroll over that way, you can see better. This area right here is going to be, I'm going to come back and I'm going to take that off with a planer, and I've got a jig for my planer that lets me hold the case at a particular angle, and I can run that through. So that's what I was saying. If I want to make the case thinner, I'll I have to do then is just continue to run it through until it gets the skin that I want it to be, as long as I don't cut through the bottom. So I didn't mess up the setup earlier. I did it right. So yeah, it should be good. Hopefully.
Okay, so I realized that I didn't have the mic setting correct. I'm not using the mic from my headset. I'm using the mic from my laptop, built-in microphone. So I will go back and voice over this for the video on demand people that watch it later. So if you missed something, check back maybe tomorrow or Wednesday, and hopefully I'll have that voiceover on. That's correct. The USB is on the side. So I made that decision when I was designing the PCB. And the main reason for that is because of where it's oriented. And because of how I have these hot swap sockets, they kind of interfere with the placement of the USB. And so it was either have it stick out really far from the back or stick it out the side. So I thought it'd be kind of unique to have it sticking out the side. A lot of times I put my keyboard in front of my laptop or even on top of my laptop. And so having it stick out the side is a pretty useful thing for me. So I kind of like it. There's the placement of the USB on the PCB. Okay, I thought I was missing some holes in that top ledge when I was generating the toolpath a minute ago. So I'm going to come back through here and take another pass at these.
Okay, I can go back to this mic if it sounds better. So I'm just checking here that this hole is cut. The one on this side is the one that's actually missing. So there's no hole there. But if I turn on this thing, then there is a hole there. So that's what's missing. I need to go back and find that hole. matter of selecting the proper hole here. Then come back over to Cam and add that to this toolpath. That would be this toolpath. So these holes along the top edge are going to be used to hold this top kind of cover in, and the holes in the bottom are going to hold the PCB. And then the plate will attach on top of the PCB. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. So you got the PCB, it's going to screw into those bottom holes. And then we've got the plate, and the plan is to have it screw into the holes on top of the PCB with some additional standoffs or spacers. And then we have this top piece. It's going to be made out of either acrylic or brass. If I can get the brass cut in time, it'll be brass. If not, it'll be acrylic. And it's going to screw down into the top plate. These holes are going to be countersunk so that the screws will sit flush with the top. And then hopefully it's going to be a nice polished brass. So it should look pretty neat. Yeah, the top brass part is kind of a cover to make it fit this high profile and have these blockers in the corners, which you normally wouldn't get on a high profile because it's an HHKD layout. So it's going to sit there and it's going to come right up to the edge of the keycaps. So then the keycaps will kind of sink down below it. And depending on what material I get that made out of, it might end up being thicker than I've got it drawn here, so we'll see. Well, I guess on this particular case it won't be any thicker because I just cut it out at 3 millimeters thick, so it should won't be any thicker than that. So I believe this is just about done with that initial operation, the adaptive clearing. So it's going to move on to the contour and the horizontal, which is going to go fairly quickly. So hopefully we'll have a chance to get this over onto the other machine, which has the vertical clamp on it, and get it set up. I'm gonna walk over there and work on setting that up. So hopefully I'll check back in on the chat in a second. Yes, the black tube is a vacuum tube. It's supposed to be picking up the dust. It's not doing a very good job. I suspect the filter is fairly clogged on the vacuum. And yes, it's not a drill, but it's a router. It's kind of like it's a palm router that you would use to a trim router that you would use to do things like trim the edge of a thing like that on your countertop or route out your designs and such. So it appears it's now on the final horizontal operation. So here in a minute you're going to see it doing that pattern down in the bottom. I think it's doing the top surface right now. And I'm just exporting this file so we can get it ready for next. I just want to check my heights here to make sure that I have enough space on my bit that I'm going to be using. It looks like it's so the top is going to be the surface, and then the bottom is going to be the bottom of that hole. So the longest the bit needs to cut is 12.6 millimeters, which is a little over half an inch. It should be fine. It's about a 3/4 inch cut. So. Yeah, so it is doing that final finishing operation down there, that surfacing operation on the bottom. You can see that center area is starting to get smooth as it kind of pushes that little edge out. And it's done. So we're going to go pull this off, and I'll pull the camera back over here and get a good look at it. So, got the finished product here, well, the work in progress product right here. We've got that lip there. Surface is pretty smooth down here. There's a whole lot of sawdust on it. A few little edges here, little things sticking up. That'll sand right down. We've got some rough along here, which we'll take off here in a minute with the chisel, just to get this edge cleaned up nicely to run through the next step over there. But all in all, it's looking pretty good. I'm going to rearrange some stuff a minute here. There we go. Got the chisel, I'll be right back. So when you're running these things, maybe on a professional machine, if you had somebody machine this, you might be able to take it straight off the machine and do some light sanding and be good to go. But with these kind of hobby class machines, there's a little more cleanup work to do. So I'm going to take down some of these edges that didn't quite get cleaned up here. Part of this is maybe the wood blank wasn't cut exactly, maybe the bit wasn't measured exactly, various things, but I need to get this surface down smooth. And there's some things I could do to make this a little better. Here in these corners, I didn't tell it to go all the way into the corner. I told it to just go where the model was and stop. So some little things like that, but for the most part, it gets a pretty good job of it. Just a little bit of cleanup required. And here I've just got a nice sharp chisel taking these edges off. I'm a little awkward here because where I have the camera set up, I don't have a whole lot of work area to set this on. So normally it'd be a little easier than this, but not really worried about the finish on this corner because I'm gonna round that over on the router table later anyway. So I'm just trying to get this rough edge off. I don't want to get too deep. Getting a little deep right there. Spin this around. The only reason I'm really worrying about this right now is because I need a nice flat surface for the next operation. Make sure that it has the right edge to to 0 against so that I have the location for the USB port correct. Okay, and we specified this corner over here is going to be the 0. Fortunately, that's the one I kind of took the corner off of, but I think we'll be all right. We'll take some quick measurements, make sure that